Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling a massive moment in history, and we're using Edward Gibbon's classic, The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, as our roadmap. I mean, seriously, how do you kill a religion? It's a pretty startling question, right? But according to Gibbon, this wasn't some slow, gentle fade into obscurity. Oh no, it was a full-on revolution. A systematic takedown of a belief system that had been the bedrock of the Roman world for more than 1,000 years, all to make way for a new faith. All right, let's get into it.
So, where does our story begin? Well, it's not on some dusty battlefield. It's in the halls of power, the Roman Senate in the late 4th century. And the fight was over a single, incredibly powerful symbol. Now, you have to understand, this was way more than just a ritual. For the traditional Roman elite, this altar was the spiritual heart of the entire state. It was their direct line to the gods who they believed had built the empire from a tiny city into the master of the known world. So to get rid of it, that was like severing the empire's own soul.
And this whole conflict really boiled down to two intellectual powerhouses. On one side, you had the pagan senator Symmachus. He was this master of eloquence, arguing for tradition, for tolerance, saying, hey, the universe is a big mystery, there are many paths. But on the other side, you had the formidable Christian bishop of Milan, Ambrose. And for Ambrose, there was zero room for negotiation. There was one truth, his truth, and every other path led straight to hell.
And here's where Symmachus does something absolutely brilliant, rhetorically speaking. He writes this passionate plea to the emperor, but not in his own voice. He writes it in the voice of Rome herself. It's this powerful, emotional appeal that basically says, I am the empire that conquered the world with these gods. Was I wrong? Are you really telling me now, in my old age, that I have to change everything? But, passion wasn't going to be enough, because Emperor Theodosius, a deeply devout Christian, basically forced the issue. He brought the question right to the Senate floor. Was their god going to be Jupiter, or was it going to be Christ? With the emperor's thumb on the scale, well, the result was a foregone conclusion. By a majority vote, the Senate of Rome officially condemned its own ancient gods. So, with the debate settled in the Senate, the fight against paganism spills out into the entire empire. The war of words? That's over. Now a war of action is about to kick off. And Theodosius wasn't leaving anything to chance. He rolled out this series of edicts designed to literally strangle the old faith. First, he outlawed its most basic practice, sacrifice. Then he cut off the money, seizing all the land and wealth of the pagan priesthoods. And finally, he gave the order: close the temples, or in many cases, just tear them to the ground. And if you want a sense of the sheer scale of this campaign, look no further than the Serapeum in Alexandria. We're not talking about some local shrine. This place was an architectural marvel, a giant complex on a man-made hill that dominated the city. They said its splendor was second only to the Capitol in Rome itself. It was a massive symbol of pagan culture and learning.
So you've got this really aggressive bishop, Theophilus, who whips up a Christian mob and leads them right to the temple gates. After some nasty street fighting, they burst through the walls and found themselves standing in front of this colossal, terrifying statue of the god Serapis. Now, people truly believed that this statue held the universe in balance. To even touch it was to risk cosmic disaster.
A Roman soldier gets the order. He climbs up a ladder, he swings his axe, and bam! He hits the statue right in the face. The whole crowd just holds its breath, literally expecting the sky to fall. But there was no thunder. No earthquake. There was just silence.
And in that one moment of silence, the entire spell was just broken. The god was revealed to be nothing more than a powerless piece of stone. The mob surged forward, tearing the huge statue limb from limb, dragging the pieces through the streets. And in all that chaos, the temple's famous library, a priceless treasure of ancient knowledge, was plundered and destroyed. I mean, just a catastrophic loss for the entire Western world.
You know what they say, nature abhors a vacuum, and so does faith. As the old idols came crashing down, something new and incredibly powerful rushed in to fill that spiritual void.
So here's the crucial shift you need to grasp. You go from this whole pantheon of gods to a totally new spiritual hierarchy, the saints. These were Christian martyrs, and people believed their physical remains, their bones, their blood, even stuff they had touched, held real, supernatural, miraculous power.
Now, this didn't happen overnight. At first, it was just, humble respect for the graves of martyrs like Peter and Paul. But by the 4th century, whoa, it had become this huge state-sponsored phenomenon. The emperors themselves started shipping these holy remains to their capital. It got to the point where you have the astonishing sight of Emperor Arcadius himself acting as a pallbearer for the bones of the prophet Samuel.
And you might be asking, what was fueling all this? Well, one word, miracles. A literal explosion of them. Gibbon reports that when the tomb of St. Stephen was discovered, all because of a priest's dream, the earth itself shook, a heavenly smell filled the air, and get this, 73 sick people were instantly cured on the spot. These stories, vouched for by huge figures like St. Augustine, cemented the power of relics in everyone's minds.
Okay, so while this brand new Christian world is taking shape, what's happening to the Roman state itself? Well, Gibbon argues that you absolutely cannot separate this religious revolution from the political rot that was tearing the empire apart from the inside. When Theodosius died in 395, the empire was split, for good this time, between his 2 sons. And here's the problem. Arcadius in the east was only 18, and Honorius in the west was just a kid at 11. Both were young, weak, and completely unprepared to rule. The empire would never ever be united under one man again. So the new imperial court wasn't really defined by its emperors at all. It was defined by the insane corruption of its ministers. And case in point, this guy, Rufinus, the chief minister in the east. He was the perfect symbol of the rot. Greedy beyond belief, ruthlessly cruel, he literally had a rival beaten to death right in front of him, and then he'd turn around and build a magnificent church to make himself look pious. Total hypocrisy. And all of this brings us right back to the massive question at the heart of Gibbon's work. Was the violent death of paganism, this total religious revolution, a cause of Rome's fall? Or was it just a symptom of a civilization whose political, moral, and military foundations were already crumbling to dust? It's a question historians are still wrestling with to this day.